This episode is sponsored by AutoZen, a brilliant new driving safety app I've been using with my teenagers. With so much conflict in the world at the moment, I thought it would be a really good time to rerun this old episode. Many of you won't have heard it, and I've had messages from a lot of parents who say it's been incredibly useful, even one of their favourites. Hello, I'm Rachel Richards and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug where we use research by experts and our own experience to discuss everything and anything to do with parenting teenagers.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist and musician. I'm a mother of 3 teenagers, 2 of them are twins.
As a parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters, I've seen the transformative power of getting people together to share ideas and support each other. So here we are. Welcome, pull up a chair and let's begin. And today we're going to talk about conflict management. It's kind of a strange phrase, isn't it? But It's just basically dealing with things we don't agree.
When people kick off.
All of us need this with our partners, schools, teenagers.
Yeah, it's a fundamental part of life.
It's a fundamental part of life. So, and when we're thinking about why it matters, one of the points I read was that when preteens and teenagers avoid conflict, which they often do, they tend to do things behind your back or lie to you.
Yeah.
So, because they don't like conflict.
No. A lot of adults don't like conflict either.
Yeah. I mean, who does? Who does? Let's be honest.
No. Well, no.
No, some people are quite... Yeah, some people actually will pick a fight.
Yeah, and then there's a reason for that, isn't there?
It's
not to solve the conflict, it's because it feels good to get that out.
Yeah, particularly if you're at a computer screen and no one else is there to actually talk at you. Okay, and then also I love this quote from self-care expert Cheryl Richardson, which is, if you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself.
Yeah. I think that's so right.
We do need to have these conflicts, but there's a way to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yep.
I've got some great tips and an acronym on how that can help us. Before that, we'll cover our nuggets.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we've got a review.
Oh, we've got a review.
Let's do
Let me read
first.
that first. So, massively useful and thought-provoking is the title. Hi guys, I just wanted to let you know how much I value your podcast and how helpful and reassuring I find it. And the timing of this episode on overreacting was uncannily perfect. I have listened to it twice. Wow. I've actually found it massively useful and thought-provoking in relation to a relationship with a mum friend of mine who really triggers me and gets inside my head. So I thought that would be useful to say. That it's also useful for all of our relationships, not just those we have with our kids. Anyway, huge thanks for all your work and top tips and all good things. That is from Tara. Thank you, Tara.
That's just such a lovely piece of feedback, and it feeds directly into what we're talking about today, because parenting isn't just about, like, are my children drinking? Are they vaping? It's actually about these really fundamental skills that we all need and possibly didn't get when we were growing up. So, or that we need refining.
And how we are in one relationship is how we are probably in them all. So It's all related. I totally agree with Tara.
And our kids are watching the way we behave and learning from that. So it's also about the way we relate to our partners, because that will teach them.
Yes, absolutely. They do what we do, not what we say.
Yes, all that. So your nugget, let's have a listen to that.
My nugget this week is we have I've developed a bit of a tradition, particularly with one of my kids, for when we have a conflict, which is life and happens, we kind of often text each other, which sounds a bit weird. But actually, it works really well. So we're able to have conversations face to face, but sometimes when maybe it's not quite resolved, or if there's something I want to say and it's sort of hanging a little bit, or he, we'll text it, and it can be longer and it can be more sort of, you can think of what you're going to say. Yes. And it works really well. And we've had loads of really good text conversations about quite important, serious things. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is that there was actually something, and I've introduced that. I started using that, and now it's coming back from 2 of my kids actually, but particularly this one child. And there was something really important that had been, he wanted to share, and said that he did, and then he went, actually, do you know what, Mum? I'm going to send you a message. And it was really important, and it worked so well. So it was the point of it is that, we set these things out and then our kids pick up on them and it becomes really useful.
I think that's amazing. Amazing. And also it's very relevant for this this episode again, because one of the points that will be made when we're talking about the acronym that you can remember is that sometimes it's better to write it down beforehand, because it settles in your own mind what you're thinking, because quite often we feel emotional and we find it very difficult to pick apart what we think. And then trying to explain that to somebody else is so much harder. So actually writing it down forces you to explain it.
Yeah, and as well as that it's such a great connector. So I also wrote a card to my daughter. We had a little bit of an interesting weekend, and nothing dramatic, but we had disagreed on some stuff, and I wrote a little card which she likes, so and it's just a little silly thing, but it's the effort of doing it and giving it and sort of posting it under her door. It's just really good connector. And then it's like, oh, thanks, Mum.
That's adorable. Wow. I've never done that. I need to do that. That's like the mums leaving things in the lunch boxes. And
it's really good. And then she sent one back to me later that day, and we're totally cool.
Yes, I love that. For me, I had an incident where my daughter is away and forgot something that she critically needed, and it's quite expensive AV equipment, and it's from the school. So she messaged me and said, please, I'm so sorry, really sweet, I'm so sorry, Mummy, could you possibly bring it? This is a 2-hour round trip. And so I was actually quite cross, because I had already several times said, can you pack that stuff away properly? Can you move it from the kitchen? Because it was lying in the kitchen. So there were all sorts of issues, and it had been left in my office unpacked. So I thought, how do I deal with this? And I actually wrote her and said, I'll do this for you. I am upset. So I expressed my feelings. And I said, and you can pay for my petrol. The alternative is you can pay for my time and I'll charge you at minimum wage. And she said to me, well, which is cheaper? And I said, you're going to work them both out.
Yeah.
and so I said, and I want the answer by the end of the day, which one you're going to use. I sent her a screenshot of the fuel use in my car, how long I'd driven for. And then I also sent her the cost of the fuel I'd put in, and it was £1.60 a litre. The point is that actually you get the fuel use of my car in miles per gallon. So that involved a conversion that she had to do.
That's complicated.
Yes. And so the first answer came back wrong, and I said, no, try again, show me you're working. And I said, here's a hint. Ever again. Here's a hint. And the great thing was, it gave her an understanding of why maths matters.
Yeah.
Okay. It gave her a chance to practice some of the skills that she's supposed to be practicing for her exams. And it also gave her the choice. So which one am I going to do? Which am I going to pay? Yeah. And this is why my allowance system works really, really well, because she totally said, Mummy, that's completely fair. I totally understand it. It was a very easy thing to do, and I just take the money out of the account and then it's gone. So I don't sit reminding her about it, because you know what? We all make stupid mistakes, and she's paid her penalty. I've resolved it in a way that I'm happy about. So it works.
Well done, Mum.
Let's go on to conflict. And we know it's a major issue for human relationships.
Conflict is a really important part of life. And generally we shy away from conflict, possibly because we associate it as being either or, as either, we sweep it under the carpet, or it's a really big drama that ends up with, big scenes and a lot of pain. And what we could be better at is teaching our kids and teaching ourselves as adults that conflict is a part of life. It's an absolutely normal part of life. Yes, it can feel a bit uncomfortable, but if we address it really early, the first signs of a conflict, and we learn some tools and some techniques that mean that we can disagree and we can do it in a really healthy, harmonious way, then it's not such a thing to fear. And we don't go, conflict. We go, okay, it's part of life.
Yes, I see a conflict. Right, what do I do about it?
Yeah, and get in there quick.
Rather than having that panic.
Yeah.
Love that. And that's it. Conflict resolution is the ability to settle disagreements using negotiation and compromise. one small study, which was published in Science Direct, it was found that parents and young teens don't use systematic methods of solving disagreements, as if we need a study to tell us. They found young teens thought parents or siblings initiated most disagreements.
Oh,
which I love.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that the disagreements were, yes, part of the routine.
Yeah.
And
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I think what I thought was funny about this was my daughter one day turned to me and said, "Mummy, I've noticed I know that I annoy people at home often, and I've realised that the way to deal with it is just, when I'm told I've done something bad, I just go, oh yeah, okay, thank you, sorry," and then I just said, you are so smart. That's incredible, because what do you say after that?
Yeah.
However, I have said to her, it's a very useful thing to diffuse a situation, but I would quite like to know your viewpoint.
Yeah, and I was reading something actually yesterday, just by coincidence, of the difference when we're bringing up our kids, the difference between compliance and cooperation.
Brilliant.
And compliance is, and that's really prevalent in this culture for bringing up, especially small kids. Oh, they need to be good, they need to be quiet, they need to behave. You don't want the kid that steals all the cake at the party. You don't want the one that goes and bites the others or pulls their hair because the other kids, whatever the situation is, you want the compliant kid. So they kind of clip their wings a bit, and that's not good. You want the kid who can cooperate, that can verbalize. So that's the conflict resolution.
Yes, fascinating. So, and then with the parents, they thought the disagreements represented their struggles with their role as a parent. There were opportunities to instill a sense of intrinsic responsibility in their child. So, so we're actually, even the conflict, we're coming at it with a different viewpoint.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And another study that I looked at was a training program that was conducted in 4 classrooms in an American middle-class elementary school. 92 students in the 3rd through 6th grades received 30 minutes of training per day for 6 weeks. That's a lot of training.
Yeah,
a lot of training.
It is.
But the training focused on negotiation and mediation procedures and skills. And what they did was they checked before and after, how are these kids dealing with it? And they found that within 4 months after the training, the students were still using the procedures to resolve conflicts.
Amazing.
And it meant that there was a massive reduction in the number of conflicts, and the parents who are the teachers and the principal who are having to deal with the conflict. They weren't going, teacher, he just did that. Right? They were resolving the problems amongst themselves.
Yeah, brilliant, because they have the skills and the tools. Yes. And it's also normalised that the conflicts are going to come up rather than being a big drama. And
we get this at home. We get a lot of parents who say, my sibling, the siblings are arguing all the time. Yeah. I mean, one thing is, rather than having to intervene, is teach them how they can resolve these conflicts themselves.
Absolutely that.
Right. So I looked at lots and lots and lots of websites and lots of books, and the one that I found incredibly helpful was Making Great Relationships by Rick Hanson. And the reason I found it so helpful is because he thinks like me and he's very clear. I just want an acronym. I don't want to have lots of wishy-washy stuff because I can't remember it. So he talks about the types of conflict. He says there are realistic and non-realistic types of conflict.
Ooh, what does that mean?
So a non-realistic type of conflict is rooted in, ignorance, historic tradition, prejudice. So let's say I'm a devout Catholic and you're you don't believe in God.
Yeah.
If we start trying to have an argument, it's not really going to go anywhere because we fundamentally have different beliefs. So we can agree to disagree, and what you can do is you stop it escalating.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a discussion, can't you? But I guess that if the goal is that you want to agree, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. It's like, are we going to get somewhere using, trying this? Well, you can if you want to spend hours and maybe years trying to unpack, because these are fundamentally different ways of doing things or thinking about things.
But that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think we do have generally, again, big generalization, a problem with agreeing to disagree. We don't really like it, do we?
No,
doesn't. It kind of sits open. We like to have it in a box wrapped up.
Yes. No, you're right.
It's not a natural.
That's true.
To agree to disagree is quite a mature place to come to.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When my kids were younger, we tried Life 360, but they didn't like it. They felt, it was a bit too invasive. It's really easy to keep checking up on your kids. If you feel the same way, AutoZen might be the right fit. It's designed to coach, not control, building trust between teens and parents while still keeping everyone informed. Try AutoZen at autozen.com and see the difference. And I've exercised that. I mean, I've been on Twitter where people have said rude things to me, and sometimes they've got a point, and I'll just say, "Oh, it's a fair point."
Yeah.
And then they just go, well, like, what do I do now?
Yeah, because agree to disagree usually means, you can have your opinion, but really I'm right.
Yeah. And sometimes I think
but to
that's
really
a good
agree
point.
to disagree is equal value for the opinions.
Or I'll say, I agree with this, but you're never going to make me agree with that because I fundamentally disagree. But that's fine.
And it's the cornerstone of empathy, isn't it?
Exactly.
You don't have to agree. We don't have to agree, but we can respect that you think in that particular way, and I understand that you do that.
Yeah. And it's coming back to, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
No.
So, and then the other type of conflict is realistic. Two parties have opposing needs or values. So is the conflict about value or emotions? And if so, don't worry, we'll come back to this. If it's about value or emotions, then you use conflict resolution. If it's about needs, it's collaborative problem solving. So we do have two kind of little avenues you can use. And the collaborative problem solving, I'll just get that out of the way. That's basically, you've got 4 people in the house, you have 1 car, and they're all drivers. And they will say, well, I need the car. But the truth is you don't all need the car. You just all need to get somewhere, right? So the question is, how do you fix this?
Yeah, so sort of a pragmatic solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a value-based thing. It's just basically we all need. So you can all sit down together and say, okay, everyone come up with your solutions. We'll pick the best solution that everyone agrees is the best one. Easy. Yeah. It's not easy.
Well,
but
in a family, it often becomes a value thing, doesn't it? I need it more than you.
Yes. I need it more than you, but what do you need it for?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get down to the need.
Yeah.
What is the need? Yeah. And once you can talk about the need, you can say, okay, you can give that one a lift to there, or we can get a taxi.
Actually, that reminds me of a book which I think is brilliant in a way of managing conflict resolution, is a guy called Marshall Rosenberg who wrote the book Nonviolent Communication, and it's a whole thing, nonviolent communication. He's not around anymore, but he was used in lots of mediation, in the Middle East and all sorts of
Interesting.
things. And he's got a way of doing it, absolutely amazing, man. And one of those was, you need to firstly be aware of what your need is, and know what the other part's need is, because often we presume that it's the same as ours, and it's often not. And he's got loads of other ways of of doing, which I think is similar to the things you're going to be talking about in a minute.
Yes.
But knowing your own need and the other person's need, and seeing, are they the same, and if they're not, then how do we approach this?
And coming back to what you said earlier, it's about identifying that stuff. So sometimes writing it down makes it much easier, because if you haven't identified it, then you can't really communicate it.
And if your need turns out to be, I just want to be right, well, maybe you can question that.
Yeah. And so before you go into this, you've got to understand that there are roadblocks to communication. There are things like judging, which is both criticizing and praising, because what you're doing is you're still judging, even if you're praising. Sending solutions, so you're saying, well, I know the answer to this, and being the parent and saying, this is the solution, because what you're doing is there's no communication there. Avoiding the other person's concerns, so diverting conversation to what you want to talk about, or leaving the room, because this matters. And you've done that. You've not left the room. You've actually stayed there with one of your children who felt really strongly about something that you simply couldn't understand.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's worth sticking it out, because this shows that you care enough.
Yeah, and that is absolutely the key to it all. Is in a family situation, but in any situation, is really understanding, and again, as you say, like staying until you get it.
Yeah.
Please, and starting with an open mind. So I don't know where this conversation's going until we have it. I really don't. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a preconceived idea. Actually, my only agenda is I want to understand. And I had this with, as you say, my daughter the other day, where I didn't agree with something. We disagreed on what we were going to do as a practical thing, but it was involving something I just didn't understand. So I said to her, I don't understand. I hear what you're saying, but actually I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. So talk to me. Tell me all about it. And it took us ages, a bit backwards and forwards a bit. And eventually it was like, okay, I get it now, and she could hear that I got it, and we resolved it. So until you understand, you can't, but you have to go in with an open mind.
And that technique, there's actually a technique which is LUFU, LUFU, listening until they feel understood.
Oh, there's an acronym for
Yes,
rounding.
it's a great one. So it's just basically staying with them until they see that you have listened to them and you understand them.
Yeah.
Not that you agree.
No,
But you can understand them, and that makes them feel that like they can come back in the relationship, and the relationship is valuable.
And in fact, at the end of that conversation, I actually said to her, I said, I still don't quite understand why it's so important to you, but I hear that it is, and I fed her back what it actually was. This is what I'm hearing you saying. That makes sense to me. And she was like, yeah, that is it.
And we talked about those skills in I think it was episode 3, when we talked about listening and talking, communicating with your teenager, because this stuff, it's about paraphrasing what they've said, what you think they're saying, because that way they can either say, oh, yes, that's exactly it, or they can say, no, that's not how I feel, because that's the way you inch towards a full understanding.
And those conversations, you're not trying to win or lose, which I think we often go into a conversation, especially when there's a sniff of conflict in it. Our ego wakes up and goes, oh, I need to win this. I need to be right. And so it becomes black and white. Especially with teenagers, it's really important to go into it with I don't know what's going to happen. So the conversation sounds a bit more like, oh, I get it now. Or, oh, what do you mean by that? Or, okay, tell me more about that. I don't quite get that. And it's a kind of an unpacking rather than right, this is what I think and you're wrong. And because that just ends up in more fight.
Yes. And one last thing, one of the roadblocks that we all tend to use is reassurance, which is a way of emotionally withdrawing from the other person while appearing to care or to be helpful. So when you go, well, it's going to be fine though, but you haven't really unpacked why it matters to them. You've just gone, you're going to be fine.
Just want to switch it off because it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. And this happens a lot with, from my friend who's got cancer, people go, oh, you're going to be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, because they're uncomfortable with
they
it.
Really? Exactly.
And that related to that, I think is really important that we have a little look at, because when we have conflict, it often wakes our stress response because it's a bit more dangerous when we have conflict. That's a survival thing. And looking, what is our own particular stress response? So is it fight? Is it flight? Is it freeze? Or there's a fourth one, fawn. And what are our kids? We all have different ones. And if we can identify that, and we all have all of them, but we often have a tendency. If the fighting one is the one who's shouting and arguing and fighting back, needs to win, the flight, oh, no, this fight, that's the I'm fine, run away. And then the freeze, rabbit in headlights. Fawn is like, you do anything to make it okay again. You say anything that makes it all good again. And identifying with your kids, what their tendencies are. So then you can manage it. That's really, really important, because that's noticing. A reaction rather than an actual interaction.
And people tend to grow up with anti-listening advice. I mean, as parents will say, oh, don't listen to them. And also in classrooms, people tend to tune out or ignore because rather than cause a problem.
Yeah.
So we have to, it's a skill. It's a skill to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? It's assertion. And people often confuse assertion with pushing your agenda, but actually being assertive is about being honest about how you feel. So for example, my daughter came to me and said, I've got this problem with my friend. She said she wants this, but I don't want to do that. But I don't want to ruin the friendship because it really matters to me. And I said, yes, but what about what you need? How is she supposed to know if you're not prepared to tell her that is a problem for your friendship? It was to be friends, it requires both of you to be honest about how you think and feel. Her friend tends to really overreact. This is a tactic that some people use, either consciously or subconsciously. My husband used to work for Lehman Brothers for a while, which is an investment bank. And he said there was a guy who in meetings would go red in the face, bang the table, and everybody would go, ah.
Amazing.
And he'd talk to him afterwards and say, oh God, you were really upset. He said, no, I wasn't upset at all. I just use that tactic.
That's so naughty.
It's a really naughty tactic, but it's very powerful. So it's also about, okay, I see that you're overreacting right now. You're banging the table or you're whatever, because then it doesn't send us into that, oh, I've got to calm them down. Okay. Because you go, okay, I don't know whether it's a conscious or subconscious tactic, but you've gone into that.
That's yours.
Okay.
And the words that we pick as well, I don't know if you're coming on to that, but the words that we pick, because often when we get into a conflict, we get very blamey, don't we? Like it's you, it's me, it's your fault, it's not my fault. We're desperate to get any blame off us because we don't want that sticking on us. So our language becomes you did, you do this. And if we can change that to, when this happens, be more neutral, when this happens, I feel this. You can't disagree with how somebody feels.
No, so that is it. So first of all, if you want to assert your thinking and how you feel, it's the acronym I've put up is OFFA, OFA. Okay. Don't use small talk before you do this. And my daughter said, I did that. And I said, sorry, I forgot to mention to you, don't use small talk. And she said that was the thing that actually threw us off because...
Why is that?
Well, because people can smell it a mile off. Say, for example, you start going, oh, this is really nice. And they're... just go in. Go in. You say, I just need to have a conversation and do it. So what you do is your first thing is, objective. Be objective, a non-judgmental description of the behavior you're asking the person to change, whatever it is. Next one is F, feelings. So when you don't clean up after yourself is the objective. That's this person's not cleaning up. How it makes you feel. So that's
or you
the
could
F.
even be more neutral, couldn't you? When the counter is untidy.
Yep, you can be more neutral about
all
it.
The U's out.
Any of that. I feel annoyed.
Yeah.
That's the feeling. And then the affect. So how does what they're doing actually affect you? So it makes me annoyed because I then have to clear up before I even start cooking.
Yeah.
All right. And then pause. And the reason you pause is because there's a very high chance that you will get a negative response of some sort, either that they lock down or that they fight back or whatever they do, because nobody likes being told that they've upset someone in any way, whatever it is, whatever their defense mechanism. So look out for the defense mechanism. And that's the point at which you do the LUFU. So what you've got to do is you've got to really engage. Don't turn away. Don't start looking at your phone or whatever it is. Look at the person, watch for the signals. How are they responding right now? And when they tell you something, try and show them that you're listening by feeding back to them. Okay, so I hear you feel this. Am I right?
Yeah. And really listen. Don't just listen
really
to the
listen
gaps
to them
and then jump in.
Yeah, really. You're not trying to win something. You're trying to explain how this makes you feel.
Yeah, that makes loads of sense. Does this way, because I always find that then more is needed afterwards, a solution. So like a need, what is my need in that? Okay, for example, it could be, how do you feel about not, tidying up, or just, if you can't do it now, then by 6 o'clock in the evening, or whatever the situation is. And then you can work out a solution.
Of course. Yes. You come to,
without that, then it's left a bit kind of, ugh.
Yes, you need to get to the point where they feel understood. So the LUFU is, you might need to cycle a couple of times through this, them reacting, you coming back. And then once they feel understood, and you both feel like, okay, you get me, I get you, what's the solution? You go on to a collaborative fix phase. Where
which you can then ping back. I did. That was the ending of the disagreement I had with my daughter at the weekend. It was like, we had 2 different solutions. One was, something about a booking, and another was actually when we disagree, her brain goes offline, as everybody's does, and she understands that now. So she said, I don't like it when you leave, if we've disagreed, because I know what you're doing. You're waiting for my brain to calm down so we can talk about it, but I don't like you leaving the room. It doesn't feel very nice. So we brainstormed it. I said, okay, well, maybe I can stay in the room and wait for you to calm down. Would that work? And she was like, yeah, let's try that. So then it feels like we've come full circle. There's a tangible thing we can do next time.
Yes.
And try out. It might not work.
And that's the important thing, is that you both now listened, understood, and now you can come up with what's the answer.
Yeah.
And coming back to things like consequences, which we've talked about in the past, rules, any of these things, they require both of you to agree to them, because otherwise what's going to happen is they won't be adhered to.
No.
These useful techniques can fit into every single one of these scenarios we struggle with at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to absolutely be in agreement with it and be really flexible. So like, they might come with an amazing solution that you haven't thought of, and you go, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's try it. Let's ditch mine. Be really flexible and really open to ideas.
Yes. And you, as you said, they may come up with something that you weren't necessarily, that's actually a strong conflict with yours.
Yeah.
That's a need that really is different to yours, which requires resolving.
Yeah.
And, you have to understand that before both of you can move forward.
Yeah. And generally in the home, I think we've talked about this before, but in home situation, it's different when in other places. But I think, the tone of a home is something that is a process, isn't it? So we have that Coke bottle image of you shake a Coke bottle and you take the lid off immediately and the whole thing explodes. So conflicts, they start tiny always with people that we live with. So, take the lid off a tiny bit when it's tiny. Rather than poof.
I love that. Good point.
So I always do that. I'm always in like tiny bit of tension. I mean, not in a weird neurotic way. That would be really annoying. But, okay, this is something, I just want to get this out here.
Yeah.
And then you've taken the lid off a little bit and it doesn't explode.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So it's offer and then LUFU, and then you can go into the, okay, let's negotiate what kind of a collaborative solution.
Yes.
If you are in a situation where there's a lot of conflict in your home, there are ways you can get help. I'll put on the podcast notes some of the organizations, including speaking to Susie, counseling services, Parent Line, the domestic family violence, sometimes it's not really that simple.
No, and conflict, it can be really triggering. And if people have underlying things that, they're very angry about, or that's, it's massively triggering, it can lead to violence. So that's not what we're talking about.
We're not talking about that. But these skills, practice them. Don't expect them to get them right the first time. My friend was trying to do this with her son, and he's 15, and they got to the LUFU stage, which is the listening until you feel understood. And he went, well, can't I just jump to the end? I mean, I heard you. And she said, no, you have to actually feed back to me that you listened and you understood. And he was, he was in your classic son thing. Well, hang on, how long have we been doing this for?
We've been doing this for 2 minutes. Your time is up, Mum.
And I told her about the 2 minutes. She went, oh, don't even, I think 2 minutes is too long for my son. I think maybe a minute. I said, you try it a minute. That's very funny. So have you ever or never had conflict with your teenager? And I don't know, it's your household non-stop conflict. It's really, really a tricky subject. We'd love to hear if you have any great tips for us, because we're always interested in what people have used as to help them. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then of course, why not help others? Tell your friends, tell the school, subscribe to our podcast. Yes, please leave a review or just talk to us. Yep. We're very friendly.
Always welcome.
We're on the social media. I'm terrible at Facebook. I am on Instagram. I'm kind of where my bonus daughters are. My teenagers aren't so much on Instagram. My bonus daughters are there, and that's a great way for me to communicate with them and also with the listeners. So come and join us. Susie has her own website, which is
www.mindful-life.co.uk.
And if you want to contact us directly, it's www.teenagersuntangled.com. Lots of ways to communicate with us, blog, every episode is on there. So just come and say hi. That's it for now. Goodbye.
Bye for now.